So this is the 08:35 hours GMT edition, part A of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions. Baby Angel Geronimo is the world's bestest Baby Angel Geronimo and the most uniquely placed Baby Angel Geronimo, witnessing the depravity, the evilness personified by successive occupants in the posts that they occupy in the United Kingdom state. We use the UK within quotation marks because of the very strong possibility that the English-centered colonialist races controlling most of the powers of the UK state will be forced to give up what remains of the United Kingdom, especially in Northern Ireland and Scotland, despite the fact that currently the movement for an independent Scotland is undergoing a setback, connected directly with the various internal unfitness, dysfunction and dishonesty and corruption in the ruling Scottish National Party. And the resignation, of course, recent resignation of Nicola Sturgeon and her replacement by Hamza Yousaf. Despite all these limitations, the general consensus prevails that Scotland is not part of England and that Scotland is being treated with discrimination by the English-centric majority. The evidence that Baby Angel Geronimo has gathered over the last 6 calendar years, Baby Angel Geronimo's evidence, witnessed uniquely, focuses on the key constituents of the so-called independent organs of the UK state. Most scandalously and disgracefully, the behavior of the English judiciary festers in corruption. And today's newspapers, today that is Thursday, 27th of April 2023, they don't make any qualification about the reason for the court suddenly expressing a subtle but unmistakable bias, so that neither King Brian nor the Prince of Wales, which is Williams, will be facing any judicial rebuke based on the evidence that Harry has produced about the various incidents, secret and otherwise, between the King Brian and Williams and Brenda herself, because these dealings took place before Brenda passed away. So the subtle suspicion that Harry's account might be weaker than it could have been is nothing to do with the evidence that Harry has produced. Absolutely not. It is for the court to find an excuse to allow King Brian and Prince of Wales et al. To escape a judicial rebuke. That is what we are saying at this early stage, and we shall indeed be vindicated. This is corruption. When we talked about the role of the then about to retire, the first president of the Supreme Court, we called him a professional prostitute, judicial prostitute, because he was making a contradictory statement only at the behest of and the invitation of the then regime of Theresa May in place at number 10 Downing Street, despite the fact that she had claimed to be a Remainer at the Brexit referendum in June 2016. As soon as she became Prime Minister, Theresa May issued language, words, phrases, propaganda that could easily be mistaken for Brexit propaganda or propaganda issued by a Brexiteer. That she turned out to be another dishonest, nasty conservative politician is, of course, evident in all the things that she did while she was in the post as Home Secretary. She is the one who issued the directive to the Home Office bureaucracy, UK Border Force, etc., to create a hostile environment for the migrants, refugee seekers, etc., etc. So anyone who's tempted to say that Suella Braverman, who is the latest evilness personified, holding the post that Theresa May did hold, is the worst incumbent in the post of the Home Office in this United Kingdom, needs to check the facts. And if they check the facts, they will find that the only thing that separates Suella Ivila Cruella Fernandez Braverman from her predecessors of other backgrounds and ethnicities, etc., is the fact that she is of stunningly undeniable Indian origin. Although she was born in England, she is of Indian Goa origin. There is a little extra complication because her parents came through Eastern Africa. Because that was the fact that so many Indians ended up in Africa is proof that the British colonialists transported so many people from India to other parts of the world where the British had colonial control. And they needed these people to be exploited in those locations. So Suella Ibila Cruella is the daughter of parents who were, in terms of social and economic kind of standing, they belong to the lowest possible group. But that would not be apparent when reading her statements she has been issuing in the post from the post of the incumbency as Home Secretary of the United Kingdom. Suella Ibilar Cruella is issuing statements as if she is another Thomas Babington Macaulay, who showed nothing but contempt for the people of the subcontinent and contempt for the equal contempt, which was absolutely based on falsehood and his stupidity in the 1830s. He showed equal contempt and ignorance of the Sanskrit language as well as the Urdu language, as well as the Hindi language. But I mean, the way that he belittled those languages defy any serious evaluation. They are gross, they are wrong, and they're such a collection of stupidity that anyone who currently checks what Macaulay said would be ashamed, should be ashamed, if they had any sense of shame and dignity. So Suella Ibila Cruella is only following in the footsteps of the nasty Theresa May and, of course, the nasty Priti Patel, the ugly Priti Patel. Every single incumbent in the post of the Home Office or Home Secretary has been found to have been responsible for issuing some of the stupidest, most dishonest statements under the cover of protecting our population from foreigners. That's an absolute lie. But the truth is that they have issued the statements. So who writes those statements? Who scripts them? For generations, people have found that the Home Secretary of the day can be guaranteed to take the side of the neo-Nazis and the pro-Nazis in the United Kingdom. A man who is kind of deserving, according to some people, of sympathy because of his blindness. David, the lying racist criminal, Blunkett, when he was in post as Home Secretary, he didn't fall behind. I mean, he was as nasty. He was as nasty, as corrupt, as criminal, as cruel, as hostile to the most vulnerable people as Suella Ibilar Braverman is coming across as today. Today's Times newspaper carries the cartoon by the main cartoonist on the Times, Peter Brooks. And I shall read the Brooks cartoon caption. So the cartoon on the top right left hand side says Grim, Grimm, and there is this image of Suela Fernandez looking across the graves that she has dug at two migrants. And the caption says, the bubble, welcome. I'm a compassionate humanitarian. And she's putting on a grin, deadly cruel, unbelieving grin. And there are 4 graves dug, ready for the arriving migrants to be buried alive. And she's calling herself a compassionate humanitarian. Now that sums up. And the minister in the department that she fronts is doing the news, kind of catching attention. And he was busy catching attention because of the vote that was due to be held yesterday in the House of Commons on the latest fascistic bill is Robert Jenrick. Now, Robert Jenrick is a licensed law trading barrister. Now, any basically common sense possessing, quote, barrister would be expected to know a few things that cannot be outside of the required list of knowledge by anyone who claims to be a careerist, a licensed law trader. And that list includes the declarations, the treaties, the agreements, and the charters that the United Kingdom has signed up to and remains signed up to. And one of the conventions that the signatory state must honor, of course, all the signatory states must honor all the signed declarations, conventions, charters, agreements. This one, in context, is the 1951 Refugee Convention. So let's look at the Refugee Convention in order to understand how vile this evil Suela is being. Now, this is the UNHCR, and this is the website of the UNHCR United Kingdom. And it says the 1951 Refugee Convention. The 1951 Refugee Convention and its 1967 protocol are the key legal documents that form the basis of UNHCR's work. Refugees are among the most vulnerable people in the world. The 1951 Refugee Convention, supplemented by its 1967 protocol, help protect refugees. They are the cornerstone of refugee protection and the key legal documents that form the basis of UNHCR's work. And it says under core principles. The core principle of the 1951 Convention is non-refoulement, which asserts that a refugee should not be returned to a country where they face serious threats to their life or their freedom. The document outlines the basic minimum standards for the treatment of refugees, including the rights to housing, work, and education while displaced, so they can lead a dignified and independent life. It also defines the refugees' obligations to host countries and specifies certain categories of people, such as war criminals, who do not qualify for refugee status. In addition, it details the legal obligations of the states that are party to one or both of these instruments. Anyway, the history of the 1951 Convention, as written here on this website, unhcr.org, in the aftermath of the First World War, 1914 to 1918, millions of people fled their homelands in search of refuge. Governments responded by drawing up a set of international agreements to provide travel documents for these people who were effectively the first recognized refugees of the 20th century. Their numbers increased dramatically during and after the Second World War, 1939 to 1945, as millions more were forcibly displaced. In response, the international community steadily assembled a set of guidelines, laws, and conventions aimed at protecting the basic human rights and treatment of people forced to flee conflict and persecution. The process, which began under the League of Nations in 1921, culminated in the 1951 Convention, which consolidated and expanded on previous international instruments relating to refugees and continues to provide the most comprehensive codification of the rights of refugees at the international level. There are some common questions that they have now listed. What is the difference between the 1951 Convention and the 1967 Protocol? Which countries are party to the 51 Convention and the 1967 Protocol? Now let's look at this one. Which countries? To date, 146 countries are party to the 1951 Convention and 147 to the 1967 Protocol. And then it talks about what is the definition of a refugee, why do refugees need protection, what rights do refugees have under the 1951 Convention. Does a refugee also have obligations? Of course. Can someone be excluded from refugee protection? How can states sign on the 1951 Convention and the 67 Protocol? Now, what the exemption refers to is minor, numerically minor and factually minor, because the only people that can be denied, refused refugee status are war criminals, which is by definition very small or non existent. So the people whom Suella Ibila Cruella is defaming and dehumanizing are innocent people. And these are the people that actually are the highest deserving of protection by the United Kingdom. So, how is it that yesterday the anti migration bill, anti refugee bill, got passed in the House of Commons? And how is it that newspapers like The Guardian and news outlets like The Independent, including the BBC and Sky News and Channel 4, have not been telling viewers and readers the basic facts about the refugees? Because if they were telling the readers and viewers the basic facts about refugees and basic, absolutely very serious humanitarian needs that these people have and that must be kind of respected. If they had done that, you would see nothing of the rhetoric, which is effectively incitement to murder, that Suella Braverman is allowed to pronounce every single day. And in the actual debate, Keir Starmer, who is the political martyr of the Labour Party, because he is the political martyr of the Labour Party, his role as the leader of the opposition has not been in accordance with the duties of the leader of the opposition. So he has actually left out. He has actually been leaving out the most important aspects of the United Kingdom's international duties and obligations. So there has been a vacuum in terms of where the opposition should have been. And the vacuum has been filled by repeated criminal behavior by Suella Braverman. And because Keir Starmer himself is a racist, colonialist, there is no demand for Suella Braverman to be sacked, not from the front bench that is occupied by the political martyr of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer. But it is only a matter of time, I say, that the incitement to racist, because this is based on racism, and Suella Braverman Fernandez has become the ghastliest, monstrous personification of the worst kind of Indians, looking brown, but representing the most hateful racist contempt against people of Indian origin, let's say, or people similar to the people of Indian origin. By Indian, I mean the geographic region called the subcontinent, which is Pakistan, which is India, which is Bangladesh, and smaller states like Nepal and Sri Lanka, etc. So it's only a matter of time before the pariah state internationally that the United Kingdom is becoming will be very difficult to operate internationally. And because of that, the likes of Braverman and, of course, Dominic Raab, who has been forced to resign, the likes of Braverman would be forced to resign. And there will be a different kind of culture because of that, not because they're suddenly going to become compassionate and stop being cruel, but because the greater benefits, the business and other selfishness that they must meet will become difficult to fulfill. So, for those reasons, they will be unable to keep people like Suella Fernandez in posts. We shall be continuing this, of course, in due course. Now, there is a libel case report on a libel win yesterday in the High Court in London. Remember, the High Court in London is the only place where claims in defamation are allowed to be heard. So, yesterday, in the High Court in London, a woman judge called Heather Williams published a ruling against a libel claimant called Billy Hay, who is a Glasgow based tattoo artist who had sued a woman called Nina Creswell. Now, Nina Creswell was a 20-year-old student in the northeast of England in 2010. And she met Billy Hay during the party that she was attending at a pub in Sunderland. And at one point, she claimed he attacked her violently and wanted to have sex with her. She tried to escape, and he pinned her against the wall. And as she lowered herself in a physical way to avoid being grabbed by him and to escape, he demanded that she perform an oral sexual act on him. All of these claims she published 4 years ago. And based on these publications, Billy Hayes sued her for libel, demanding £70,000 from her because of the loss of reputation that he suffered as a result of her blogs, Facebook, and other social media publications of the details of what he had done to her. Now, the timing was because of the Me Too movement. And the delay is explained by the fact that the police in Sunderland failed to take her complaint seriously. And even Heather Williams, in her ruling yesterday, gives the game away about her own affiliations as a judge. She's not going to go on the record as accepting, no matter how genuine, how legitimate, how factually sustained, any criticism of the police. So, although she found in favor of Nina Creswell, Heather Williams had to put on the record for her own careerist reasons her reservations about Nina Creswell's comments about the police failing to take her complaint of sexual attack and attempted rape by Billy A seriously. The fact that Heather Williams published her judgment yesterday, which is 2 months since Louise Casey published her review about police corruption and police sexism, is very significant indeed. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that is that despite all the factual findings by various investigators, the judiciary continues to behave corruptly. So Heather Williams did not behave 100% corruptly yesterday, but she did behave 50% corruptly because she shielded the police from very important criticism to which the police should be exposed and about which the police should be held to account, because it was an allegation by a 20-year-old woman who was nearly raped by a rapist. So we shall talk about all of those in detail another time, because the Heather Williams ruling is accessible. And as I said, she has ruled in favor of Nina Creswell. But in doing so, she has not been 100% honest. Thus, keeping the judiciary in the state of corruption and overall prostration to the state and to the monarchy. That is unsustainable and that is inconsistent with the doctrine of separation of powers. We should be talking more about the doctrine of separation of powers. Now, yesterday also was the day when the current Commissioner of the London Metropolitan Police appeared before a committee of MPs. Now, as the evidence has been coming out since the kidnap, the rape, the murder, and the burning of Sarah Everard by a police employed by the London Metropolitan Police. And earlier this year, David Carrick, another police, who raped at least 8 women. Or the headline in the story about the commissioner's appearance before the members of parliament yesterday is represented in one headline, which says that the London Metropolitan Police is becoming a disgrace. Well, I completely disagree with that. It's not becoming a disgrace. The London Metropolitan Police collectively has been a disgrace for more than 60 years or longer. And the fact that it has been a disgrace and nothing has been done to stop it being disgraced or to scrap the London Metropolitan Police is only part of the story. Why? Because the man who is now the chair, what is called ex officio, chair of the London Metropolitan Police Authority, the corrupt, opportunistic London mayor at the present time, Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan is so completely dishonest and corrupt and timid and a mental slave that despite all the evidence of industrial scale rape, industrial scale racism, industrial scale abuse of the powers by the London Metropolitan Police individuals, the one factor that has been absent from all the notices that have been forced into the media by the sheer weight of the corruption and criminality of the London Metropolitan Police, the one factor that has been absent is any comment by the so called chair of the Metropolitan Police Authority, Sadiq Khan. And if we go back to the, let's say, first decade of the century, and the first incumbent in the post of mayor at the expense of London, the post created by the war criminal Tony Blair, we find the role of Ken Livingstone as a colluder with the then London Metropolitan Police regime that had plotted to murder the innocent Brazilian. As if that was not criminal enough, the then commissioner, man called Ian Blair, actually rushed to conceal evidence that the police murdering the innocent Brazilian, that fact was known within minutes, if not before the murder, by the office of Ian Blair, the commissioner. And this was the evidence given by a former assistant commissioner of the Metropolitan Police with experience of posting in Lambeth, Brian Paddick. Paddick has been the only credible source of information about the goings on within the Metropolitan Police bureaucracy. It hasn't been anyone in the Labour Party, so called, or any other party, no member of parliament, that has broken the story, published the actual evidence. So, although it was Brian Paddick, who is the Liberal Democrat, who made the information available publicly, the Labour Party has not done anything to take action against the Commissioner Ian Blair himself or from others, including Cressida Dick. Now, Cressida Dick, who later became overly praised as the first woman to head the Metropolitan Police, was the one who was the commander responsible as the line manager of those police personnel who did murder the innocent Brazilian. Throughout this period, before he lost the election to Boris Johnson in 2008, Ken Livingstone was complicit with the criminally active murdering police personnel. Ken Livingstone was hostile to the family of the victim of the police murder, the Brazilian. So, what are we faced with? We are faced with a Britain that is corrupt beyond comparison with the proverbial banana republic. Every single institution in this United Kingdom, especially the judiciary, and more demographically, the police, every single aspect is corrupt. And there is no accountability. None of the crooks, murderers, liars, either in the judiciary or in the police, is being held to account. And this is something, when examined in the context of the literally hundreds of international treaties, agreements, declarations, conventions to which the United Kingdom remains signed up to, it doesn't compare with even the worst banana republic state. So when Suella Braverman says that migrants who are trying to get asylum or refuge in the United Kingdom bring cultural profiles and cultural kind of traits in their behavior that are at odds with, she uses, our values. What the fuck? She is not part of the our. She is part of the them. But she's betraying the them and pretending to be part of the our, the us. And what will happen when she is kicked out of power, which is inevitable? Suella Fernandez will not have any excuse herself, and she won't have any supporters. Not among the ordinary decent thinking people, in any party or with no party. Essentially, we are witnessing the morass, the disintegration of the United Kingdom, institutionally and individually, into a state where there is wilderness. There is no morality, there is no ethics, there is no fairness, there is no compassion, there is no solidarity, there is no respect, there is no recognition of basic human decency. So, this is the state to which the United Kingdom as a state has been reduced by successive incumbents in the various posts in the state who have been appointed not by any moral fitness for purpose, but by abject unfitness for purpose. Look at the Dominic Raab, you look at the Dominic Cummings, you look at the Boris Johnson, you look at the Nazim Zahawi, you look at the Nadine Dorries, you look at the Esther McBee, you look at the Ian Darty Duncan, Dracula Duncan Smith, you look at the George Osborne, you look at the David Cameron. These are apparently perfectly acceptable candidates to occupy the positions in the UK state on the appearance, but on the contents of their mind and mentality and mindsets, they are, each one of them, evilness personified, as witnessed by the baby angel Geronimo. What we shall be doing is, of course, continuing this essay in order to cover all the aspects in the due detail. For the time being, we keep the updates only in indication, not actually included in the broadcast that we are now going to end 53 minutes at 09:27 hours GMT on Thursday, the 27th of April 27th of April 2023.